Yeah, I wanted to just make a quick video about this post, sort of like an example, like an analogy or a metaphor for understanding, like getting out of a relationship. Well, actually, do you know what? Let's just read the post instead of me just going on. Put a frog into a vessel filled with water and start heating the water. As the temperature of the water begins to rise, the frog adjusts its body temperature accordingly. The frog keeps adjusting its body temperature with the increasing temperature of the water. Just when the water is about to reach boiling point, the frog cannot adjust anymore. At this point, the frog decides to jump out. The frog tries to jump out, but it is unable to because it has lost all its strength in adjusting with the rising water temperature. Very soon, the frog dies. What killed the frog? Think about it. I know many of us will say the boiling water, but the truth about what killed the frog was its own inability to decide when to jump out. We all need to adjust with people and situations, but we need to be sure when we all need to adjust with people and situations, but we need to be sure when we need to adjust and when we need to move on. There are times when, when we need to face the situation and take appropriate actions. If we allow people to exploit us physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually or mentally, they will continue to do so. Let us decide when to jump. Let's jump while we still have the strength. Hashtag real talk. And then underneath there's a picture of a frog getting warmed up in a pan. Who knows what the fate of this frog was? I've no idea. I don't think anyone cared to ask as well. Was this frog? Because this is actually sort of like a torture scene, really. Hopefully it wasn't. Hopefully it was just tepid water at most, and the frog was just a pet frog, and it was allowed to just have a bath basically, and then allowed to get back into the field or whatever. But that's not. But the point is, I mean, this post I just thought about it and just took a few exceptions to it, really. As you know, its usefulness as a way of understanding a relationship in which you need to sort of make a decision about getting out of. So, you know, as you can tell, I can't sort of speak without taking huge pauses. So I'll just read out something that I read. I'll read out something that I wrote before to a friend who posted that link. I was like, this is a terrible analogy, which actually undermines itself, even though the point it tries to convey is an important one. Maybe I shouldn't read it in that patronising voice. The reason why the frog stayed in the pot too long, the pot was a pan. Who cares? The reason why the frog stayed in the pot too long was because it was using past experience that told it that the temperature of water usually cools or stays the same after it rises. Water doesn't usually carry on getting hotter until the frog is dead. Oops. Let me just check if that is actually the real. Did I just skip a bit too much there? No, I didn't. The human placed this frog in an environment the frog couldn't possibly conceive of using its past experience, because once you are in boiling water, you are either soon dead or will have to escape a situation that feels like torture, and I can't imagine there being many frogs in the second camp. This flawed analogy then translates into real life as saying, once the temperature starts to heat up, get out. Or, once you start feeling uncomfortable by your surroundings, leave while you still have the energy. Which is not the right message. Well, I don't think it's the right message. Some people will interpret this as a reason to leave a relationship at the slightest suggestion of conflict. And conflict itself isn't bad if both parties are able to grow and respect each other in the process of resolving it. Why are you doing that? Just like, alright. A better analogy would be of the frog looking for a pond to swim in, but sees a predator in the corner of its eye. It then decides to either look for another pond, predator-free, or choose to swim close to the water's edge so that it can get out quickly if it needs to. I think the key factor in the pan example above, or pot, it was pot and I would change the pan, is the key factor involved is the height of the pan or the pot. The scale, which represents, I guess, the scale of the obstacle which allows one to leave and be free again. Unfortunately for some women, as soon as they've entered into a relationship, it almost feels like they were entering a labyrinth, a sort of a situation or relationship where, it twists and turns, and in order to get out of it, you know what I mean, you can almost lose yourself once you're in there, if that's what a labyrinth means. Yeah. Or Alcatraz, so a place you're never getting out of. Or maybe if you could do, but you'd have to be literally a genius, and know all the weaknesses of the situation that you're in order to exploit it, like your partner's Achilles heel somehow. But that's, it's asking a lot, isn't it? Not of every single person. It would be great for them to be able to tell an Alcatraz from a shallow pond. So yeah, I guess and it's just a bit, the analogies, I just don't like it. The frog didn't get into the pot, did it? Do you know what I mean? At least with a relationship, you're like, hey, you do have a bit of say about who you sort of get with. And you know what I mean? You don't just wake up of a morning and find yourself in a relationship with some nutter who is just won't let you go outside or go to the shops or see your friends. It's just a terrible analogy. It's awful on ridiculous amounts of levels. But so I just had to just say something which was counter to the type of response it was getting. Look at that. They must have, I don't know what the likes and the likes or reactions to shares difference ratio is a bit on about. I think it might have something to do with the I don't know, because there's not many comments on it as well. So I'm just thinking if the ban the ability to comment, it also stops the ability to like and stuff like that. But you can still share it. Look at that, 171,714 shares of this example. That's a lot of people seeing this analogy and then reframing their own personal situations or seeing it through this type of lens, which I just think is a bit, it's problematic, but I just think it's wrong. As in the information is just bad. It's quite powerful as well, isn't it? Oh, I'm just a frog. I'm just a frog boiling in a pot of water. Do you know what I mean? It's I don't agree with that. And this example just literally talks nothing about the pot, the height of the pot walls, the human who put the frog in the pot in the first place. That's what we should be talking about here. Yeah, yeah. Well, basically that's it. That's 10 minutes. So let me stop.